Welcome to episode one
Yes.
of our new show. She is Lais, and I am the coach, and that is the name of our show.
First of all, if there's ever been a time for personal bubble, this is
We will always stay true to what we do. What you're doing is going to get you to the next place.
Right.
Throw the list away. It's only a matter of time before you cave.
You can look way better than you used to.
Such a great experience.
Well, like it knows everything you've given.
Shown curiosity. What if it actually works?
I've been chopped down como persona.
100%.
An extra vitamin.
City right now. Sometimes it is a member.
Welcome, everybody. Peace out, everybody.
Welcome, everybody, to Lais and The Coach. And on today's episode, we have Danielle from Engage HR. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So for anybody meeting you for the first time, who's Danielle and what is Engage HR?
Okay, so I have about 20 plus years of corporate HR leadership. Most recently, head up the talent acquisition leadership team for Volvo here in Charleston, South Carolina. We ramped up about 1,500 employees, so I had about a team of 6 to do that. And so I got tapped on the shoulder on Halloween of 2023 and told they were going in a different direction. And I went home and I slept for 2 months because I was burnout. So I ended up then saying, well, no one's ever going to tap me on the shoulder again. So I'm going to figure this out on my own. So I started Engage HR in February of 2024. And it's been a journey to figure out what exactly I want to do, what lights me up. I didn't want to do people's HR. So what I focus on is coaching and developing HR professionals, as well as like HR departments of one, and then new and emerging leaders.
Wow. First of all, talk about making lemonade. And second of all, how you just spit that out. You know your shit. I love it. I love that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I've got a ton of questions, and I did do some research on all of it. But honestly, like, let's start with the basics. What exactly is HR? What makes up an HR department? I think a lot of times the word is thrown out, and for a lot of people, they really don't know what it is, and they just like, oh, I'll talk to somebody at HR, or HR will handle that. It's like, and from my perspective, considering that we work with so many different adults, they don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm. So it's honestly where everything ends up that no one knows where to put it. Is typically what HR ends up being, right? I've been planning Christmas parties. I've been told about the bathroom being backed up. I've been, so many different things. So for the most part, we do benefits, payroll. So the biggest thing is we want to make sure our people are paid and they're paid correctly. So we do benefits as well. So they have their health insurance and all the insurances, as well as 401k, things like that. Then we have employee relations, and that's the policies and procedures. So we make sure that our employees are being treated correctly, but also are abiding by the policies and procedures of the company. And when I say we make sure, that's not our job to make sure. It's the leader's job to make sure, but then we're also there to kind of help that leader, support them, and is what they're doing wrong, that kind of thing. But also, it's a balance between employees and leadership, because we want to be there for the employees, but we also have to be there for the leaders. So it's just a balance there. So it's a tough role. It's a very tough role.
It sounds like
a
it.
mediator, like the principal.
Yes.
So there's a
Very
couple
true.
things. There's 2 things that I want to go back to, because we do a lot of, I guess, rebuilding in rebuilding people. You said that you burnt out. If this hadn't happened to you, were you on the road to burning out?
If what
Like
hadn't
when
happened,
when they tapped you on the shoulder and said, we're
Mhm.
going to go in a different direction.
I was already on the road to burning out. I
Yeah,
was
I
already on the road. Yeah, I was on the road probably, and I didn't know it. I didn't know. I knew something was wrong. I remember walking out of the restroom the one day and looking at the HR area. We had about 40 people in HR. And looking at the area and just being like, I am so tired on the inside. And I don't know what that means, right? But yes, completely. I was completely annoyed with every single meeting I had to go to. Like my whole personality shifted. And then I was single, so I didn't have anybody at home to tell me something was wrong besides my dogs, and they were just happy to see me every day. But my friend, I went on vacation with my friend, a long weekend with my friend and her husband, and she looked at me when we were leaving that weekend and she said, "Something's going on with you. I'm not sure what it is, but you need to figure it out." And so that was like my first inclination. And then I think because I loved that job. I loved my company. I loved everything about it. But it shifted so much. I was there for 7.5 years. And so I was there as employee number 45 and we grew to 1,500, right? So the culture that it was when it was a smaller group, we were all jumping in to do everything and help and do whatever we could. But then when it became larger, you had people saying, well, that's not my job and this and that. And just the culture just shifted. And so it wasn't aligned with who I was. And it was so disappointing to me because I thought that I found my home. You know what I mean? And so I think that's ultimately why I burn out. But there were a lot of decisions made that I had no impact on. And that was a little frustrating too. So there was a big combination of reasons on why I burn out. But yes, I was definitely on my way to burning out at the end. And I'm grateful that I didn't have like the physical, issues that I hear a lot of people have. So I
Yeah,
didn't make
it's
it there yet. So yeah.
what a blessing to have them help you, right? Them scoop
Right.
you out. Because I think a lot of times, like all of us, just continue to do what we need to do. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
human nature. You're a responsible adult. You have people depending on you a lot of times, and it's like you just got to do what you got to do. Yeah, I'm tired. Yeah, I'm stressed. Yeah, work's been hard this
Mm-hmm.
week. Yeah, there's some changes that have been made that I don't really have any impact over, but we don't really usually stop. Like your friend said,
No.
like I don't know what's going on
Mm-hmm.
with you, right? To reassess, to recalibrate, to say where is it that I need to shift? Not to mention, most of us are very comfortable inside of the things that we know. So
Mm-hmm.
shifting it is even a bigger stress than putting up
Right.
with where we're currently at. But it can be so detrimental to someone's life, to someone's happiness. Even what you said, like I was a different person, my personality changed. And I think we see that so much with what we do. Like he said, we transform people, we rebuild people, and you can see like their
Mm-hmm.
starting point, you can see how much that's affecting who they are, almost like they don't even know who they are anymore. And when you
Mm-hmm.
make shifts, the amount of things in your life that changes, and you're like a
Right.
whole other person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like life is still
Yeah.
lifing for all of us. We all have stress, we all have, things that we need to deal
Mm-hmm.
with. But it's so important to stop and like take inventory of your life. And most of us don't do that because we don't have time for that. We just keep going. And that's the worst
Right.
thing that we can do is just to keep going all the time.
Well, and every day I would walk into work and I would say, I'm so thankful and grateful to have this opportunity. And it got to the point where I was lying to myself, right? Because it wasn't like I was saying it just to try to make myself believe it because I knew I was tired. But yeah, so I am grateful that, and I do try to make lemonade out of lemons. Like that's been my thing. And I'm always usually grateful for when as terrible bad things happen, but yet I always come out better on the other side. And I'm grateful that I guess I have that resilience.
I
Yeah.
guess one of the things that I'm curious about is in retrospect, can you look back to see when or where that started? Was it like a series of I should have taken time off when I didn't? Was it a series of projects that you undertook where you probably should have rested? Like at what point, looking back now, do you think that that started? Because I think that we all catch it too late. Like we've both burned
Hmm.
out, like,
Yep.
like bad. But I think that we
Hmm.
catch it when we're on the other side of it. But in retrospect, like when did you start, or I guess looking back, when did you say, man, if I would have taken that weekend off, I could have reset, or if I
Yeah.
didn't take on another thing, I could have like, handled that a little bit better and maybe felt better.
Like, was it time off? Was it boundaries, right? Like, was it a moment? Was it a multitude of things?
So around 4.5 years, because I'm used to being in a position for maybe 3 years and then changing, right? And whether it's a company or just the position changing, that kind of thing. So around 4.5 years, I was like, I don't know what I want to do next, but I was ready to like move on. But I didn't like no other corporate role sounded interesting to me. I didn't really want to do anything else within the company because I had so much HR experience. And I mean, I didn't want to be a director because they worked 100 hours. Like it was just like it was a lot, and I think looking back on it, I probably should have changed something then. But I pushed through. But again, I don't think that it was necessarily working 100 hours a week. I think it was the work and the constant changes. Because, like, my team was getting ready to hire 1,300 people for second shift. And we're told in January we're going to start hiring 55 a week in June. Well, we start all these events, right? All these hiring events. And then in April, they come back and say, yeah, we're not going to hire them until September, October. So we just did all these hiring events and telling all these people we're bringing in 55 a week starting in June, my credibility feels shot. You know what I mean? Like it feels like I just did all this work and it's not even my team did all the work, but like, telling these people and my integrity, my credibility, like all those things. And that ultimately I think is what, you know, was the nail in the coffin for me because I was just like fed up. So.
Yeah.
All right, let's segue a little bit into,
Mhm.
let's talk a little shop. Like, what's one of the biggest myths that you think people have about HR?
That they're responsible for culture. That's a big thing that I think HR has a hand in it for sure, but leadership is responsible for culture. One thing I can say is accountability it starts at the top. And if it doesn't, if it's not being held at the top, like even the CEO holding themselves accountable, then it's going to lead into a toxic environment or a bad culture. So HR is not responsible for culture, but they do have a hand in it and they can help to maneuver it with leadership development, leadership training, leadership coaching, those types of things.
So you go from 45 to 1,500. How fast did that happen?
It was in 1 year. It was like nine
Oh, in a
months.
year, in a
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
That I'm sure that really had to shift culture, like tremendously.
hmm We
Like,
had so many leaders that we brought in, and then growing people from inside. They would be in their role for like, you know, not even 6 months, and then get promoted. And it was, it was interesting. That's for sure.
Wow.
how does that affect the people that are all there before some of these people get, I guess promoted or ahead? Like some of the behind the scenes stuff. How does it affect how people show up every day?
Um, I think everybody was so bought into the organization, right? So everybody truly, truly believed in the organization. What started to affect people was whenever people were being promoted into leadership roles and couldn't necessarily perform the role, right? Because we had senior leaders that would be responsible for metrics and they would be coming down on the floor supervisors who are responsible for the people, but they're so focused on the metrics, right? So I think but we're so bought into the organization and the culture that we thought, it should be. None of us really realized that we were burning out. Because I've actually talked to a lot of people that have left since I've left. And I think they're all like the one guy I actually talked to this week, and he was like, I didn't realize how miserable I was. And again, I love the brand and I love the organization. It's just it wasn't working. So,
It's interesting that you say that. Like, let me ask you a different question. What
mhm.
what does a healthy culture look like, or what should it look like?
Accountability and trust are the keys, right? So you need to have trust with your team, trust with your leader. You need to be able to ask questions. You need to be able to, just because it's the way we've always done it doesn't mean it's the right way. So you need to be able to bring up those topics and feel safe that you can do that, right? And then leadership also needs to listen because that was the culture it was in the beginning, right? Be courageous, ask questions, accountability, like held each other accountable, held ourselves accountable, build trust with the team, collaboration. But then it just shifted because it was more like a blame culture and things like that. So I think those are the important parts of the culture to make it healthy.
I agree with that. And you know what's interesting about that? It seems like the world has shifted in that direction. It feels
Mhm.
like everyone wants to give their opinion and bitch and moan and complain and be the victim, but personal responsibility, personal accountability is so rare these days. It's almost
Yes.
like our generation was the last one to be able to have it. And then
Mm-hmm.
everything after that is just the blame game or the victim mentality. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it ruins everything. You
Yes.
know, you could literally take something amazing and ruin it. And it's interesting the work that you do because it's like you have the ability, like you said, you have a hand in it, right? It's not up to you, but it's like we got to be able to bring that back because
Mm-hmm.
when people are accountable, when people are aware, when people are open to communication, like, well, maybe it is me, or maybe I can do it differently, or maybe I should listen differently. It's like everything can be so different just by tweaking that, you know?
Yes.
From your perspective, how do you know it's a you problem versus a company or culture problem?
Um, Help me understand like a you problem, like
So
a
like just to her point, taking personal accountability, like how do you know that what's going on at work isn't your
Well,
fault?
like as a leader, like, is it me or is it them, you know?
I think self-awareness, right? So emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and being aware of, because I always, if something would go wrong on my team, I was always looking at myself first. That was the first step for me, no matter what. What could I have done better? How did I let them fail? Things like that. So, and for instance, I had an employee that I didn't see eye to eye with all the time, right? So, and she wasn't performing to my standards. So I ended up putting her on a performance improvement plan. I put her on this plan. We sat down. I had all the expectations set out. The next, I guess, in 30 days, we had a follow up. Come in, she's meeting all those expectations. I wasn't good at setting clear expectations. So I took that on myself, and she was able to, continue her job, and we had everything clear then. But I think that that's the big thing, is looking within yourself first, because you shouldn't looking outside isn't, you have to control or look at what you can control, right?
Is that something that people are quantifying or qualifying for before somebody even starts, their job? Like, are we looking to see if somebody has some self-awareness or some sort of personal responsibility before they even begin? Or are a lot of companies based on what you see, like in such need to fill a role that whatever, we'll figure it out when it happens?
I would say it depends on the role and it depends on the company. There's a lot of behavioral questions that you can ask to get those examples of where they showed self-awareness, where they showed that they were able to manage their emotions, that type of thing. But depends on the organization and whether or not they're asking those questions.
That's a good point, really quick, because I haven't applied for a job in a really long time. But I do remember being like, what the fuck are these questions? Like, how are you? Right? Like, is this just what people have to ask, or is there actually something behind it? Because
Mhm.
a lot of it didn't make sense. And so I guess my question is like, is there actually like I guess a hidden message behind those stupid questions, or they seem stupid to me, you know, like why should we hire you? It's like, because I fucking need a job. Like, what do
Yeah.
you mean? You know, like some of those
Yeah.
questions seem so ridiculous, but I'm like, there's got to be a reason behind the question, you know?
hmm
So,
And
yeah.
yeah, I think the strengths and weaknesses question, or the, why we should hire you question, those are basic interview questions that I guess like people use when they can't come up with anything else. But like we have like, we would have a team, right? Like for instance, if I had a vacancy on my team, I would look at what skills I'm missing from my group, right? So like maybe somebody wasn't good in PowerPoint, or maybe somebody isn't good in Excel, and I need those skills. I need stronger Excel skills. That's something I'm going to look for specifically. So it depends on the role. It depends on what the team's lacking and needs more of. And then, just creating those, because the behavioral questions I like better than the ones that you mentioned, just because like give me an example of a time that you got emotional, but you were able to regulate yourself in order to handle a situation. Things like that, so that way they can actually
Yeah,
show that they've done it.
those are
Yeah.
the questions I'm like, I don't know right now. I'm
Right,
not
right.
remember. How about you
Yeah.
give me a scenario
Yeah.
and I can tell you how I would
Yeah,
respond?
exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Got it.
How does that shift from where you were to starting your own business?
I'm still working with clients who are struggling with accountability. within the organization, within senior leadership. So that's something, but I'm excited because I feel like I have the opportunity to share and make an impact, versus, not, I guess, having the ability to make the impact on senior leadership, in the past. So that is still carrying over. And then I'm working with HR departments of one that to grow their confidence and hold themselves accountable, but also realize the importance of accountability in their organization. So that's a lot of fun for me. And yeah, that's been how it's rolled over.
Would you say you're happier now?
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Yeah. I haven't made my corporate salary yet. But I am so much happier, and money isn't everything, and I will get there. I will get beyond there. But yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I asked a happy question because it's what you said before. You're like, we talk all the time about without like the opposite, right? Like you can't really feel. So it's like without an up, there's no down, and hot and cold and
Hmm.
all the things. And so you didn't notice you were unhappy or burnt out. And it's
Hmm.
kind of like the universe or whatever you believe in forced you in a different direction that you probably wouldn't have taken, on
Hmm.
your own for no reason. It pushed you there, but now you can recognize how happy you are.
Oh,
The
for
same
sure.
way like math is math and you're like, I'm not there yet, whatever, it's fine. But it's like, I'm
Hmm.
happy, I'm free, I am on my own terms. Like, good thing that that happened. And
Oh
I think a
yeah.
lot of times for anybody watching, it's our hardest times are usually always setting us up for, what we can't see on the other side of that.
Hmm.
But it's so hard in those moments to feel that way because you're like, I
Yeah.
don't care what's on the other side. Like, this sucks right
Right.
now, you know?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Actually had a therapy appointment that same day. And my poor therapist, it was virtual. My poor therapist comes on the screen and I am just a mess. And he's just, like, what happened, So it was just interesting. But even in that, like, I never talked about burnout with him. And I was with him for about 2 years. And I don't blame him for that. I blame myself because, well, not even myself, because I didn't know, right? But he didn't know my behavior at work. So I think that's important to consider too, because you can be in therapy but still not share the right things. But I didn't know I wasn't sharing the right things, So yeah, it was an interesting perspective too.
Speaking of not knowing, what are, I guess, like we have both sides of the audience in terms of where they fall in relation to HR. But what are some of the things that the people that are in leadership roles should know that they probably don't, because it's not something that, they're trying to grow their company. They're not necessarily paying attention to the details. Like, what are some of the things that they should pay attention to that would improve the little things in their business? And then on the other side, for the employee, what are some of the things that they should know or do that would facilitate the process for management or ownership?
Management and ownership, I would say build trust and accountability into your culture. Those are the most important things. Do what you say what you do, walk the talk. Those are and people they want expectations. They want to know what's expected of them. They don't want to, have to second guess. And they'll respect you more if you admit you made a mistake. So those are super important things that I don't think all leaders recognize. And then from an employee perspective, ask questions, be curious, and if you don't communicate something, people don't know. Because a lot of times I'll meet, people that want to grow. Did you talk to your leader? No, not yet. And it's like, well, that's, how you're going to get opportunities. So it's things like that I think open communication is huge and something that needs to be.
I guess I have a similar style question for both sides of the aisle. But as a leader, how do you know that you've got somebody on your team that is worth trying to make sure you keep? Like, how do you know that this
Mhm.
person is an asset? Like, we've got to make sure that we take care of this person. And then same thing on the employee side. Like, how do you know you're in a place where you should really be doing your best to show up for them? Because it's easy to, I guess, get sidetracked with, shiny objects. But what are the things that you should be looking for as an employee inside of a company that say, like, this is a good place. I gotta
Mhm.
make sure that I show up here.
Mhm. I would say a solid culture, like we talked about, that's important to an employee. And then, of course, good benefits because you don't want them worried about things outside of the workplace. And then giving them opportunities, seeing the ability for growth and development. Because when you look at the top three reasons for turnover, one of them is money, right? And benefits, and then growth and development and leadership. Or so it's those things are important. But people don't tend to leave for money. They'll leave leaders and they'll leave for lack of growth and development. If they see their opportunity for leadership or for growth and development, then they will stick around because then they know the money's going to come. But if they feel stuck, then they're going to go.
I was gonna,
And so, what's that?
no, I was gonna say that being stagnant is the worst.
Yeah,
But go ahead.
exactly. And then I think from a leadership perspective, you want to retain the employees that are showing up to work every day, the ones that are actually performing and doing a good job. And I think the big thing too is I realize with younger generations, they don't know about taking initiative. And so that's
I don't
something
know
that I think.
anything. I hate that generation. Oh my God, what's happening? We were so much more with it. They need to, I want to shake them.
I,
Anyway, sorry.
I know, I don't understand. Well, I was a latchkey kid, so I was forced to take initiative, right? So that was just, but yeah, everything, I guess, was done for them. But they don't know that, they should come up and say, hey, what else can I do? Because that was how I grew in my career. I would get my stuff done and be like, hey, do you have anything else I can do? Even if it wasn't my boss, it was somebody else. It was just, I was trying to do more work and learn more. So I think those are the things, if you have somebody that takes initiative, that's a big deal nowadays. So I think you want to keep those folks. And then, but also like know where they want to go, understand what they want to do, because it may not be in that same position in 3 years, and that's okay. But you just need to like help them get to where they want to go to keep them in that position for 3 years.
Yeah, that makes
Do
sense.
you have examples of I guess in your expertise, some of the bigger name companies that have a really good model of culture, like one of the things that we like if we go to Chick-fil-A, it's like, wow, Chick-fil-A can organize just about anything. Like they run that
They should go into
like
that business of teaching people how to be like
right?
them.
It's like, do you have
Yes.
examples of really good culture?
I think Chick-fil-A is a perfect example of training. Like, I'm like, why hasn't somebody taken that training program and just like sold it everywhere? Because
Yeah,
they are amazing with their training.
yeah.
So Volvo had a great culture, and Volvo in Sweden probably is a much better environment. So I think culture is personal too, because just because I like working there doesn't mean that someone else is going to like working there,
Right.
because we're all motivated by different things. So it's hard to say what a good culture or what company has a good culture because it's so subjective.
Yeah,
Got it.
that makes sense. It
Yeah.
is what's important to you, what's important to me, how I feel about a
hmm
certain call versus you. That makes sense. But I think
hmm
Chick-fil-A does a great job. I think Publix actually does a great job too with just how nice everybody is and how
hmm
helpful. It's like you said, it should be normal, but it's very rare these
It's
days.
easy to stand out. It seems
Yeah,
like.
Chick-fil-A needs to stop making chicken sandwiches and get with it at a training
Training
program.
people.
Every
Yeah.
company would be, in line for
I
that.
know. I met an HR director from Chick-fil-A and I was like, oh my gosh, how do you guys do it?
You're a
So,
goddess.
right?
So one of the things that we do, or the bulk of what we do, is obviously help
You
transform.
sound a little muffled.
Sorry, like
Oh, there
the
you go.
bulk of what we do is help transform people
Mhm.
from the perspective of how somebody shows up to work. How important is it for that individual to take care of themselves, hold themselves personal responsibility for all the things that go into showing up as the best version of themselves? And then what kind of impact does that have you seen that has not only on their work performance, but on how it impacts their coworkers and the rest of the company?
It's extremely important because that's one of the things that leads to burnout if they don't, right? As well as the impact on the coworkers. People want to be able to count on each other to be there. So showing up every day as your best self and not coming in exhausted or hungover from the night before or anything like that, like actually being present and energetic and ready to go. But also, then it gives you that energy to take the initiative and do those extra things and then you can grow in your career. So it's extremely important.
And out of out of out of curiosity, like why do we hold on to this 9 to 5, 8 hour workday, Monday through Friday? Like over time, why hasn't anybody done it different? I guess in the US, because in Europe, they have a whole other thing going on. Is it the most efficient way? Is it the most effective way? Are the companies getting the most out of their employees? Are employees getting the most out of their job? Or has nobody just said anything? Like, do we just all do it the same?
So my opinion on this is a little different. So I agree. It's not the most effective. I would go into work, I would be there from 8 to 4:30, and I would watch all these people sitting and talking about what they did over the weekend or what they did. And not a lot of work is getting done during that time. Um, but yet you're at home or you can work remotely and get a lot done because you're not getting those interruptions and things like that. And I think there's a level of collaboration that's needed in personal relationships. But I don't necessarily think that 8 to 5 work life is the way it needs to be. And that's the greatest thing that I value at this point in my life is the time freedom. And not because I only want to work 20 hours a week, but it's if I want to run and have an appointment at 11 o'clock on a Monday, I don't need to ask anybody. It's me. I go. And I know I'm going to do what I need to do regardless. So that's the thing I think I recognized too in the beginning of the time with Volvo. I felt like they treated you like an adult because on Fridays after 3 o'clock, nobody would be there. But then on Sundays, people were like emailing, whatever, checking in on what they may have missed Friday afternoon. But then it was viewed as, oh, well, people are lazy, people are this, people are that, once it became Americanized. So I don't think that I said this to somebody before. I said, the person that made the 40-hour work week probably got murdered. Because it doesn't make sense, especially because I had a mentor and a leader that he was like, you're paid to do a job. And so at 2 o'clock on a Friday, he would come into my office and be like, are you caught up? Why don't you head out? So it's just that's the leadership that I'm familiar with, not so much the counting the hours type leadership.
Do you think more companies or businesses should do better at maybe making more accommodations if they want their employees to be at work longer? Should there be flex time built in during the day? Because there's got to be dead times every
Yeah,
day.
you're just
Where,
running the
Right.
clock at
right.
some point.
So like
Mm-hmm.
should businesses reconsider the model and maybe if they do need people to physically be somewhere for longer, then kind of like restructure how they're there and what they're offering them while they're there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that it's important. And I know like there's a lot of people that want remote positions and some people function well in a remote and some people don't. Like I do best when I go to a coffee shop to work just because I feel more focused. But I think it all depends on the person, but then companies need to understand that it's a different time. So, people don't want to be there 50 hours a week or more, unless they're being well compensated or taken care of in the way that you mentioned, maybe have a gym on site, things that they can do that during the downtime.
Or a coffee shop or
Yeah.
insert thing. Or even
Hmm.
like a lot of times like blocking it. You go to work Monday, Tuesday, and then not Wednesday. And like how
Hmm.
much more would you get done if you had a little bit more, you were able to pour into you a little bit more instead of the rat race of the 48 hours you have over the weekend, you know?
Hmm. Very true.
How is AI influencing all of this? Like, are companies leaning more toward leveraging artificial intelligence, or are employees that don't have a certain skill set a little nervous? Like, how is that affecting, or what have you seen?
So AI is definitely affecting things. People such as like maybe analysts and things like that, aren't needed as often now as AI. So they can, be replaced because reports can be run and that kind of thing. So it's definitely happening.
And do you think that there are specific, I guess, jobs that are going to go first, that are like maybe the lower hanging fruits?
Yeah, I think so. But also like when you think about people on production floors, um, unless you have robots to do those, which I mean, we did have, it was mainly robots in our body shop, but in the assembly shop, it was mainly manual labor, right? So unless you have actual robots that can be programmed to do that work, I think the role of maybe the admins and those types of roles will probably go first.
And just it's a similar question, but how does an employee like make sure that they become indispensable? Is it more of what you said, like make sure
Keep
that you
learning.
are keep
Keep learning. Keep asking, for more things to do. Keep learning. Don't, if you have downtime, don't just sit there and twiddle your thumbs. Get up and go find something to do.
Yeah, it's interesting because earlier when you said about your therapist, it reminded
Hmm.
me of AI because a lot of times, like you said, like I just didn't know that I was doing this,
Hmm.
right? I didn't share, and a lot of times with therapy, it's that you have an hour a week or whatever it is that someone
Hmm.
has. It's a finite amount of time versus a friend that spent time with you and was like something is off. And I think the
Hmm.
same happens with AI. There's obviously a world of things you can do there, but even with what you do, where you're going to step in and you're going to train somebody and you're going to pay attention, you're a human. Like you're paying attention to
Hmm.
cues, you're paying attention to the tone, you're paying attention to the way that somebody looks, the way that somebody shows up, right? Like there's so many things that only a human can pick up because with the computer, you're going to have to input the right things in order to get out what you want to get out,
Exactly.
right? So like you
Exactly.
said, like yeah, maybe to make a spreadsheet and maybe like some admin stuff, but even a lot of the robot stuff, like sure, but to
Hmm.
actually like pick up on stuff, it would be just like the example of the therapist. It's like I didn't think to say it. It's like, but if someone's
Right.
paying attention to you, you don't have to say it, you don't have to
Yeah.
notice it, and you don't have to think to say it. They will pick up on
Hmm.
it. They will ask
Yep.
those questions.
And if they see you regularly, right? Too, that's
Exactly.
how, yeah, that's how you like, wait, something's going on,
Yep.
for sure.
now if somebody was starting a business now and they hadn't even like they have a product or service or something and they're not even thinking about employees because it's not their cup of tea. Like, does what's something that they should really like not miss at the beginning or outsource at the beginning that most founders or new business owners miss?
I would say outsource the thing that you have the most challenge with, right? Mine's Canva. I just because when you're a business owner, you are everything. I didn't realize that, I guess in the beginning. I've realized it now, but like your IT, your marketing, your sales, your all those things. And so if you can afford to outsource something that you struggle with and that takes you a lot of time. I think
What
that's the
about with
biggest thing.
HR?
That's a good
HR. I would say that you wouldn't need a full-time HR person until you've hit about 100 employees, maybe 75. But there's tons of fractional HR and HR consultants that can help with your HR in the
Is
meantime.
is that something that your company does, or do you specifically work with training HR departments?
I work with coaching and training HR departments of one, but I definitely, if anybody wants to reach out, I definitely have connections that do that. So I can certainly connect people.
Are there bottlenecks at the beginning when somebody's starting? Maybe they have, 10 to 20 employees that if they don't fix when they're at 10 to 20, by the time they get to 100, like they're really going to shoot themselves in the
Oh
foot.
yeah, for sure. Um, you know, it's important to have like the I-9 forms and be in compliance and with all that and if you don't know, you don't know. There was somebody that I talked to that is a business owner that wasn't paying her employees overtime. And she didn't know she needed to. She was just paying straight time. So that was something that like I shared with her and she's now changed. But so it's important, I think, to have an HR expert, even if it's just somebody that you maybe pay a small retainer a month to have them, do a call a month and make sure that you're aligned with everything. Because even some of the payroll companies, I know there's like a point of sale company that has payroll added. They don't know HR. So they don't know what to tell you and what you're missing. So I think it's important to even just consult with somebody. If you don't want to put them on a monthly retainer, that's fine. Just consult with somebody when you start hiring people to have a checklist of the things that you need.
That's
Yeah, that
great.
makes sense. Everybody needs, no matter how much you know, like you said, there's only so many things that you deeply know because
Hmm.
everyone needs, guidance and coaching and mentorship. especially as a business owner.
And what about
Very true.
recharging now? Like, what are you doing now to recharge to ensure that now that you're running your own shop that you don't burn out again? Because
Burn out more.
it's easy for business owners to work even harder. Everybody says if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life, and it's like the opposite. It's
Mhm.
like you don't stop working.
Right, right. I know I'll be at night, I'm in bed and I'm doing stuff on my phone about it. But so yeah, I think I take time. Like if I feel like I'm not, because reaching cold outreach was not aligned with who I am. That's not who I am. So that was starting to burn me out. So I found other methods, right, to reach out to people. But also just being aware that like something's making me like drained or exhausted. So I think those are things, and then just exercise, eating healthy, spending time with I'm now engaged, so spending time with my fiance.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so yeah, just and hanging with my dogs and just, friends and family. I mean, we have game night tomorrow night, so just things like that. Just make sure that you add things that are fun.
And then,
I love that.
are there any like crazy like HR stories without naming names? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You're like, what the hell?
Yeah. HR stories, gosh, there's a ton. I'm trying to think of just one. There was it was, this is a little related to, it's transgender, right? So somebody was transitioning and they were going from a male to a female, so they were using the female restroom. Well, somebody came in to the restroom, a woman, and saw this person in the restroom and turned around and sprained her ankle and ended up with a workers' comp claim because she was so freaked out by seeing this person in the restroom. So that was like interesting,
I don't
Wow.
even
very
think I don't
interesting.
think people think
Yeah.
of like that part. Like,
Right?
wow,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
That's
crazy.
Yeah.
nuts. I'm sure you have seen it all, heard it all.
You never see it all. I can guarantee you that
Definitely have
ever.
seen it all.
Just when you think you've seen it all, somebody says, "Wait, watch this." Yeah.
Wow. So what would you say to somebody that is, we've been talking lately, and I'm going to go back to what I was going to say, but I need to preface it first. We've been talking lately about people in their 40s, mid 40s, 50s, almost like reevaluating life and saying, I don't think I want to do what I'm doing anymore, and I'm going to try to do something else. And people tend to call that a midlife crisis, and I call it a reevaluation of
Mhm.
priorities or whatever. But what would you say to somebody who is re-entering the workforce and looking for, that next chapter or that second wave of whatever it is that they do in terms of, since you're a little bit further along in life, what should they be looking for?
I would suggest that they network. And learn, like, ask if they want to work for a specific company or if they want to work for a specific person, network, find out how to get in front of that company, how to get in front of that person. Because you can sit there and you can send those resumes all day long. But I really truly believe that networking is the way to go. And if you find somebody or know a company that you want to work for, look at your network, your local network, and see who you know that may know somebody that works there, and get an introduction. I think those are the big things. And the people, I'm running into more people that want to leave corporate than want to go back to corporate. So, yeah, I highly recommend it. I mean, it's hard. It's not easy. It's hard for sure. But I'm grateful and happy. So,
That's what I was gonna ask. I always like to ask what has been the most impactful thing about, I guess, this transition for you,
mhm,
because you were in the corporate world for a really long time, and starting a business of any kind, even if it was on the side, is very
mhm,
difficult and filled with surprises. And I think that you were obviously gratefully pushed, right, in that
mhm.
direction, divinely orchestrated. And so, what do you think was the most impactful thing about that transition for you?
Um, I think recognizing the burnout was huge because then it didn't allow me to get any further into it. But also, just realizing that I am valuable and that I have value to add. And the freedom of my time is the most valuable thing that I have for myself in this aspect because I didn't want to be in corporate, but I was there for 25 years, right? Because that's where everybody tells you you're supposed to be. Like my parents, you're supposed to have a job. My parents have no idea what I'm doing right now. My mom will just say housework, just because she doesn't know what else to ask. But yeah, it's a different world now for me. And I'm grateful because I wish I would have done it 20 years ago.
That's amazing.
That's
That's
awesome.
amazing. I
Oh,
think,
I love that.
yeah, I think there's a lot of things that we talked about today that are definitely insightful and not the typical conversation that we have, but certainly useful because everybody is on either end of that spectrum. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yes.
Where can everybody find you?
Engage-hr.com. And then they can go on there and actually sign up I have a micro learning email. It's a strategic minute and it sends out challenges throughout the week for like leadership challenges and things like that.
That's
Oh, that's
awesome.
awesome.
I
I'll
love
put I'll
that.
put a link to that in the show notes.
Okay.
For everybody watching, if you have questions, you can put them in the comments. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to the channel. And until next time, peace out, everybody.
Bye, guys.